The political Shari'ah. Man by his nature is a social being. A social setup is an essential requirement of the nature on which God has created him. However, to protect this social setup from the misuse of his God-given free will, he, sooner or late, is forced to protect the created social setup by organizing it as a collective system. In the history of mankind, politics and governments have originated as a result of this desire of man for a social setup and this need of his to safeguard it from disorder. As long as man remains true to his nature, he cannot get rid of either this desire or this need. Therefore, prudence demands that instead of dreaming of a stateless society in this world, he should strive to constitute a social contract that cleanses the state system from evils and develops it in the right direction, thereby providing it with the basis of a fair and upright government. No doubt, for the most part, man's own nature instructed him to constitute such a social contract. However, the results alone of his labors that can be seen clearly by everyone attest to the utmost to the fact that, as in other affairs of human life, human intellect is unable to decisively resolve certain basic issues in this regard without divine guidance. It is to fulfill this need that the gracious Almighty has given man a detailed political Shari'ah through his book and through his last prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This Shari'ah consists of the following issues: 1. The basic principle. 2. The real responsibility. 3. Religious obligations. 4. Citizenship and the rights of citizens. 5. The state system. In the following pages, I shall attempt to explain this Shari'ah in the light of the Quran. 1. The basic principle. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. Believers, obey God and obey the Prophet, and those of you who are in authority. And if you disagree among yourselves in any matter, refer it to God and the Prophet if you believe in God and the last day. This is better and more seemly as regards the consequences. Surah number 4, verse 59. This directive was given to the Muslims when the Quran was being revealed and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was present among them. Consequently, they had the opportunity to refer back all their disagreements to him whenever they wanted. Obviously, since the authority of God and His Prophet is eternal, therefore in all affairs in which an eternal directive has been given by them, it is now incumbent upon those in authority, whether they are the rulers or members of the parliament, to submit to them forever. The orders and directives of these rulers can only be carried out subsequent to obeying God and His Prophet, and only if they do not overrule or exceed the limits adjudicated by God and His Prophet. Therefore, Muslims cannot enact any law in their country which is contrary to the Quran and Sunnah, or without taking into consideration the guidance these sources provide. The believers indeed have a right to disagree with those in authority, but they cannot disagree with God and His Prophet. In fact, in any disagreement between believers, the decision must be made in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. However, there are certain stipulations regarding obeying those in authority in subservience to God and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which the Prophet himself has explained. First, Muslims must cling to state authority in all circumstances. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has termed state authority as al-Jama' and as-Sultan, and directed every Muslim to in no way disassociate himself from it. He has further clarified that if anyone does so, it is as if he has left Islam, and a Muslim who dies in this state is as if he died the death of Jahiliyyah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, "He who sees something despicable in his ruler should bear it, for he who even slightly dissociates himself from the state authority and dies in this condition shall die the death of Jahiliyyah." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 1217, hadith number 7054. Another text of this hadith reads, "He who sees something despicable in his ruler should bear it, for he who even slightly disassociates himself from the obedience of the sovereign crown and dies in this condition shall die the death of Jahiliyyah." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 1217, hadith number 7053. In times of political anarchy and chaos, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has directed Muslims not only to refrain from participating in any activity against the state, but also to obey state authority with complete faithfulness and sincerity. On one occasion regarding this issue, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, on these very grounds, is reported to have told Huzaifa radhiyallahu anhu, "In such a state of chaos, you should remain attached to the state authority and to the ruler of the Muslims." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 605, hadith number 3606. Secondly, Muslims must be law-abiding citizens of their country. Whatever laws are enacted should be obeyed in letter and spirit by them, and in no way should they evade the law. Any disagreement, personal dislike, communal support, or any sort of reservation should never lead them to breach the law, except if some law is enacted in disobedience to the Almighty. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, "It is mandatory upon you to listen and to obey your rulers, whether you are in difficulty or at ease, whether willingly or unwillingly, and even when you do not receive what is your right." Muslim, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 825, hadith number 4754. At another instance, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, "Whether he likes it or not, it is mandatory upon a Muslim to listen and to obey his rulers, except when he is ordered to commit a sin. If he is ordered to do so, he should neither listen nor obey." At still another occasion, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, "Listen and obey, even if an Abyssinian slave whose head is like a raisin is made your ruler." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 1229, hadith number 7142. This directive of obeying those in authority obviously relates to Muslim rulers only. This is indicated by the word minkum, which qualifies the word ulul amr in the verse under discussion. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, while explaining this, has stated that once a ruler fails to fulfill the conditions stated in the Quran that make him a Muslim, it is not necessary to obey him. Ubadah ibn Samit reports, "The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ called us to pledge allegiance to him, which we did." A narrator said, "Among the things on which we had been asked to pledge were the following: we shall listen and obey, whether willingly or unwillingly, whether we are in difficulty or at ease, and even when we do not receive what is our right, and that we shall not contest the authority of our rulers. You can only contest their authority if you witness outright kufr in any matter from them, in which you have a clear evidence from God." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami As-Sahih, 1217, hadith number 7056. People will rule over you, some of whose habits you would like and others you would dislike. He who disliked their bad habits has no blame on him, and he who rejected these bad habits also remained safe. However, he who was pleased with them and followed them would be called to account. The companions asked, "Should not then we wage war against them?" The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ replied, "No, as long as they keep offering the prayer." Muslim, Al-Jami As-Sahih, pages 832 to 833, hadith number 4801. The Prophet is also reported to have said, The worst of your rulers are those whom you hate and who hate you. You curse them and they curse you. It was asked, O Prophet of God, should we not put them to the sword? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ replied, No, as long as they are diligent in the prayer among you. Muslim, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 833, hadith number 4804. However, even in these circumstances, no Muslim citizen has been given the permission to revolt against the government unless he has the backing of a clear majority behind him. The reason for this is that if the majority does not support him, then such a revolt would not be against the government. On the contrary, it would be against other Muslim citizens, which, according to the Shari'ah, is fasad fil ard, or spreading lawlessness and anarchy in the society, an offense regarded by the Quran to be punishable by death. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, when you are organized under the rule of a person and someone tries to break your collectivity apart or disrupt your government, kill him. Muslim, Al-Jami As-Sahih, page 832, hadith number 4798. Moreover, it should also remain clear that if this revolt takes the shape of an armed uprising, then it should be subject to all conditions of jihad imposed by the Shari'ah. Consequently, no Muslim is allowed to take up arms in rebellion against the government unless he fulfills these conditions.